Welcome to the bizarre tale of The Little Wife is a Weasel. Have you ever imagined a fairy tale told through the illogical and surprising strokes of surrealist painting? Prepare to have your mind liberated from all rules and explore images that transcend all limits. Do you notice any intriguing similarities with Salvador Dali's dream caused by the flight of a bumblebee around a pomegranate a second before awakening? Or René Magritte's The Lovers? Take a look and let me know which painting style should breathe life into the next story. Your comments are an endless source of inspiration for me.
Lai Vu, Lu Zhongchu, served as an official in a sub-prefecture. One day, sitting alone in the communal hall, he heard laughter and voices from the courtyard outside, approaching from afar and then entering the house. It turned out to be 4 young women. The eldest appeared to be around 40, the second about 30, the third around 24 or 25, and the last was a girl with her hair still hanging loose. All 4 stood before the low table, looking at each other and laughing.
Teasing and departure. Lu knew there were many foxes in the communal hall, so he paid them no mind, and didn't bother to take notice. After a moment, the young girl with loose hair took out a red scarf and playfully tossed it at Lu's face. Lu picked it up and threw it onto the windowsill, still not bothering to look at them. The 4 women laughed and then left.
One day, the eldest of the women came and said to Lu,
"My younger sister has a predestined with you. Please do not despise her humble origins and disregard her." Lu hummed and hawed to let the matter pass, and the woman left. A little while later, the same woman, accompanied by a maidservant, brought the young girl, placing her to sit side by side with Lu, and said, "This is truly a perfect match. Tonight in the bridal chamber, please stay with Lu Leng, and I will take my leave." Lu looked closely and found her incomparably beautiful. He then engaged in intimate conversation with her, inquiring about her background. She said, "I am not exactly human, but I am also truly human. Originally, I was the daughter of the official who was stationed here before. I was killed by foxes and my body was buried in the garden. The foxes used their magic to bring me back to life, and I can also transform like a fox." Lu reached out to touch her back. Understanding his intention, she smiled and said, "You must be thinking that foxes have tails. Isn't that so?" Then she turned and continued, "Now, feel again to see if there's a tail." From then on, she stayed permanently in the communal hall, always with a young maidservant by her side when standing or sitting. The household staff deeply respected her as the young mistress. Servants bowed in greeting, and she often rewarded them with various gifts. As Lu's birthday approached, he worried about the large number of guests, anticipating 30 tables of food, which would require many cooks. Before this, Lu had tried hard to find cooks from various places, but only 1 or 2 had arrived, causing him great concern. Knowing this, she said to Lu, "There's no need to worry. Since the number of cooks is insufficient, why not send those few away? Although my skills are limited, preparing 30 tables of food is not difficult for me." Lu was overjoyed and ordered wine, meat, garlic, and ginger to be brought into her private quarters for her to prepare the feast. The household only heard the incessant clatter of knives and chopping boards. Inside, a table was set up, and the attendants simply placed the dishes on it. Turning their heads back and forth, they saw the dishes already filling the table, and their only task was to carry them away. More than 10 people moved back and forth continuously, yet the food kept coming endlessly. Finally, one person carrying a tray came in asking for vegetarian cakes. From inside, the reply came, "The master didn't mention it beforehand. How can we possibly make them in such a rush now?" Then she continued, "Well, we'll just have to borrow some from others." In a moment, the person waiting for the cake saw more than 30 steaming bowls on the table, with smoke rising thickly. After all the guests had finished eating and left, she said to Lu, "We should send money to pay for the cakes to that household." Lu sent someone with money to that house. Indeed, They had just finished making several dozen bowls of cakes and were astonished to find them stolen. When someone came to pay for them, their doubts were finally dispelled. One evening, while drinking wine, Lu suddenly longed for Shandong wine. She said, "Let me go and find some for you." Saying this, she stepped out the door and left immediately. In a short while, she returned running in, saying to Lu, "I've brought back a jar from outside, enough for us to enjoy for several days." Lu went out to look, and it was indeed Shandong wine, exactly like the wine they usually brewed at home. The first wife of Lu, who was in their hometown at this time, had someone say, "I heard that the fox concubine generously rewards her servants. This time, with the reward money, I will buy a sheepskin coat to wear for fun." Sitting in the communal hall, the concubine had already heard everything. She said to Lu, "The servants from the countryside are about to arrive. There's a hateful one who speaks insolently. He must be punished." The next morning, as soon as the servant entered the communal hall, he clutched his head and cried out for his parents. Everyone went to fetch medicine for him, but Lu laughed. "This ailment doesn't need treatment. It will go away on its own when the time comes." Everyone vaguely suspected that he had offended the young mistress, but he thought to himself that he had just arrived and hadn't done anything wrong. When the headache became unbearable, he had nowhere else to turn but to crawl near the young mistress and beg for mercy. A voice from behind the screen said, "Calling me young mistress is enough. What is the meaning of adding another title?" At this point, the servant finally understood and cried out desperately. From behind the screen, the voice said again, "You desire a fur coat, yet you dare to be disrespectful?" Then it continued immediately, "All right, your pain is gone." Instantly, the servant felt his illness vanish. He was about to prostrate himself in gratitude and leave, when he saw a bundle thrown out from behind the screen and heard a voice say, "Here is a young goat fur coat for you to take." 2 family members came to the sub-prefecture. On the way, one of the servants opened it and found 5 silver coins inside. Lu inquired about news from home, and the servant reported that everything was fine, except that one night, inexplicably, a jar of wine had disappeared. Calculating the time, it was the very night that Lu had craved Shandong wine, and the young mistress had gone to fetch it. From then on, everyone was terrified of her supernatural powers and called her a saintly immortal. Lu painted her portrait to hang up. At that time, Zhang Daoyi, a military commissioner, heard about the strange affair. Out of regional camaraderie, he came to visit Lu's residence and prayed for a chance to see her face. She refused. Lu brought out the portrait for him to see. Zhang forcibly snatched it and took it home, hanging it beside his seat. Day and night, he prayed and beseeched. "Beautiful as you are, what could you not obtain? Why consign yourself to an old, bearded man? I am no less handsome than Dongju. Why not condescend to favor me once?" Meanwhile, the concubine was sitting in the communal hall at home when she suddenly said to Lu, "This Zhang fellow is impudent. I will punish him slightly as a warning." Indeed, one day, as Zhang was murmuring his usual prayers, he felt as if someone had struck him squarely on the forehead with a wooden tablet, making a loud thwack. The pain was excruciating, and he hurriedly rolled up the portrait, not daring to pray anymore. When asked why he had stopped, Zhang evasively replied. But Lu laughed and asked, "Does your forehead hurt?" Zhang could no longer deny it and had to tell the truth. Not long after, Lu's son-in-law, named Nguyen, came to visit his wife and expressed his wish to pay his respects to the young mistress, but she refused. Nguyen pleaded repeatedly, and Lu had to ask her, "My son-in-law is my own family. He's not a stranger. Why are you rejecting him so harshly?" She replied, "When the son-in-law comes to pay his respects, he will surely bring a gift for her, but his expectations are very high. Considering my current situation, I cannot satisfy him, so I do not wish to meet him for that reason." Later, Nguyen pleaded again, and she finally agreed to meet him in 10 days. On the appointed day, Nguyen stood outside the screen, clasped his hands in greeting, and offered respectful inquiries. But he only caught a fleeting glimpse of her face and dared not look closely. When he was several steps away, he turned his head back to gaze intently, and he heard her voice say, "Hey, son-in-law, turn your head back." Saying this, she laughed loudly like the cawing of a crow. Nguyen felt his limbs go weak and trembled, as if his soul had left his body. When he went outside, he had to sit for a while before regaining his composure and saying, "Just now, hearing the mistress's laughter was like thunder, to the point where I didn't know if I was alive or dead." After a moment, the maidservant, following her orders, brought out 30 taels of silver and presented them to Nguyen. Nguyen accepted the money and said to the maidservant, "The saintly immortal lives with my father-in-law every day. Doesn't she know my spending habits are large and that I'm not accustomed to small amounts of money?" Hearing this, she replied, "I knew that beforehand. It's just that my purse happened to be empty. I had gone with friends to Bianliang to get some, but unfortunately, the city god of the river seized it, and all the treasuries were flooded. Therefore, I couldn't obtain much money to fill his bottomless pit of greed. Even if I had given him more, his blessings are thin, and he wouldn't be able to enjoy it anyway." In all matters, she was always persistent. So whenever the household encountered any danger, discussing it with her always resolved everything. One day, the couple was sitting and conversing when suddenly she looked up at the sky, showing great alarm, and said, "A great calamity is approaching. What shall we do?" Lu was frightened and asked his wife if there was any misfortune in the house. She said,
Everything is fine, except for the second young master who is a cause for concern. This place will soon become a battlefield, so you should ask your superiors for a distant assignment to avoid disaster.
Lu listened to her advice and asked his superiors to assign him to escort provisions in the Yunnan and Guizhou regions. The roads were long and treacherous, and everyone worried about Lu, but she alone was pleased. Indeed, not long after, Quang Khoi raised an army in rebellion, and Fan Chao became a den of bandits. Lu's second son, who came from Shandong to visit his father, encountered the rebellion and was killed. The city was seized by the rebels, and all the officials, high and low, were killed, except for Lu, who was away on official duty and escaped the disaster. After the rebellion was quelled, Lu returned. Later, he was implicated in a major lawsuit and became so impoverished that he lacked even daily meals. The authorities demanded large bribes. Lu was desperate and worried, wanting to die. She said, "Don't worry, there are still 3,000 coins buried under the foot of the bed. Take them out and use them for now." Lu was overjoyed and asked her whom she had stolen from.
She said, "In this world there is no shortage of ownerless things. Why bother stealing from anyone?" Lu used that money to manage to escape back to his hometown. She followed him.
Several years later, she suddenly left, leaving behind several wrapped items as gifts for Lu. Among them was a small funeral pennant, about 2 inches long. Everyone considered it an ominous sign. A few days later, Lu died.
In every illusion lies a truth. But truth, too, can take the shape of a fox. Subscribe for more hand-painted stories from Forgotten Worlds.